So another Sangoma is having his own prayer meeting. Now you remember last time we spoke about Gogos Koteni having her prayer meeting, and this time it's this particular gentleman called Teboho who does, you will remember that he's ZCC / Sangoma. He seems to practice both at the same time. It's quite an interesting one. We've talked about him previously. If you search for Sangoma / Sangoma ZCC guy, yeah, the videos will pop up from the channel. It's actually a show with daily Christian commentary videos. We're going to be talking about that uniformity and that series that I kept talking about yesterday, about coming up with a series to speak about this CPRI, this idea of secrecy. Looks like there's an agenda here that's going on that maybe we are not told. But if you're thinking like that, it's because you're not reading your book. If you've been reading your book, if you've been reading your Bible, or if you've been keeping to memory the things that you've read in your Bible, this will not be a shocker. This here is a new poster that I recently saw, and it contains, what's his name? Debo. The gentleman who was doing I'm going to the river to speak to the serpent in the river. The ZCC Sangoma / gentleman that we spoke about not long ago. We made about two separate videos on him and the type of stuff that he gets up to. He goes right up to the mountains, whatnot, claims to be praying to God, but then also been doing Sangoma stuff. The same gentleman who said he charges about 50,000 consulting, whatnot, and all that kind of watches. Now, looks like he too is doing a prayer meeting. Now, why do I say, if you've been reading your book, this is not a shocker. Now, let me cover up here and let's get to this conversation. As Larry reads, he says, let's get to this conversation. This particular part of the conversation. And it's this here. The Bible warns about the spirit of the end time. And he speaks about it, as a matter of fact, even in the epistles. He speaks about the spirit of Antichrist already being in function. It aligns them. They are doing this, one is doing this, one is doing this, but they are in agreement. The spirit of the end time functions with people different in different places, but the agenda seems to flow the same direction. This is what we are dealing with in the last days. Because someone might say, oh yeah, if you remember the video that we recently made talking about how Freemasonic ideologies have infiltrated society to a point where they are so outreached, they have reached everywhere. Everybody just thinks everybody is a Mason. And it's not that. It's that Freemasonry in its beginning, and particularly the Illuminati wing of the Freemasons, started by Adam Weishaupt, which is another episode that we are doing. And I'm going to be really breaking down so that we can see that the ideas of Freemasonry are pretty much the same as those that you see in the cults. They are the same that you see in witchcraft. They are the same that you see in Satanism. They are the same as those that you see as we've been talking about them. They're the same. Everywhere you go, they are all the same. And you read Pan-African ideologies which have been now infiltrated with Greek mythology and Greek teachings. And in that particular area right there, where Greek mythology, which has nothing to do with Africa, has infiltrated these ideas, it's all based on principles of Freemasonry. We spoke about that a few days back, if you can remember. Therefore, when you think about that, if the principles of Freemasonry, which build themselves around ritualism, and I'm going to break it down really core, hard, straight on. I'm doing a series, as I stated when we did the Pearl Tuesday video, where we're going to break it down, and you're going to see the agenda. It's pretty much the same. It's the same with it's the same here. Because in Pan-Africanism, you are depending on your ancestors having received true knowledge or true spirits to have communicated these things to them. You are more dependent on them having communicated the right information that you then learned. But there is something in rituals that is very dangerous, extremely dangerous, is that ritual formats seek for someone to give themselves up in order to further the idea as a whole. We spoke about that in the Pearl to See episode, if you haven't seen that video. In that video, what we did, we laid the foundation for all these ideas. As they build, they start from here. Is that people must be willing to give themselves over in order to further the others. Because a lot of people, when they want to get into certain type of ritual types, not all ritual types have been explored. Yes. Even you see the same ideas, even in Freemasonry when it started, in the groups, in the ideas and the rankings of the Illuminati, as they were building the organization, you realize that there was ritual levels which they had not built up. Because why? They didn't have that much experience, and so they sought to advance themselves in ritual practice, so that to a point where they can give themselves to the dedication of them, so that they could build new rankings and new levels. That's a mouthful. But I'm going to explain that properly when we do that video. That's why it's kind of taking a few days. I think, 2 days now, to kind of really break it down. Now, notice what's happening here. Because ubungoma and all these ritual things that people get involved in, because these things depend on spirits or imimoya communicating information, this is why what they do, it's all the same. They display themselves in positions of function which is questionable. The same thing that we stated on the previous episode when we spoke about what is it like, what does that even look like for a Sangoma to actually be doing ritual practice. Little Lemoma Lasha actually made a video. If you guys haven't seen that video, to remind me, I'll put it down in the description below, so do go check it out. But if you hear Sesotho, because she speaks in Sotho. Lemo actually also pointed out some of the things that are going to be going on over there. Okay, so I got a lot more details around Lemo's video when she states that there is actually even going to be sales products at this event, at this supposed prayer event that's going to take place. Now, interesting enough, they have their reference points of water, salts, whatnot, all the things that they sell in their covens and so forth, or in their indumbas and everything. It's quite interesting to see that Sangomas are now hosting prayer meetings, or what they term prayer meetings, because there is now this mixture. And in Africa, it looks like it's worse. Like you see it in other places, like you see it in Mexico, you see like the whole mixture thing where people are clearly in ritual stuff, and then they are still embracing the religious aspect of things. Whenever you see mixture, it always gets weird very quickly. It always gets weird pretty quickly, because one must give himself up in order for others to rise. Now, if you remember, people like your TB Joshuas were what I'm describing right now within churches, where people, they found themselves in this level of power where they explored, where they could do certain things that others were shocked by, they had never seen before. They submitted themselves under him. It's the very same thing that we spoke about when we spoke with Posha Moha, when she was speaking about the idea of spiritual fathers comes from that one-on-one thing, which was the same thing that you did with Sangoma. Because when you met the Juju man, you got mentored by this Juju man in the practice that he had dedicated himself. And remember that particular point that I stated, because there is a ritual form, it seeks, or it needs one to give themselves up to it in order for it to further itself. And so that's the thing that is dangerous about ritual practices and all these things, ubungoma, whatnot, and stuff like this, because someone gave themselves up. There was a point when that practice was not fully established. But that explanation will deal with that when we do the series that I'm talking about. Here, the one thing that I want you to note is that because imimoya are the ones that are in communication with these people, this is why all these sangomas seem to be doing the same thing. They're all going towards church. They're all going to grab or gravitate towards some form of having a church background. They're going to find something. Remember, all the spirits are interested in spirits of deception, fallen angels, they are dependent on grabbing onto something that you are interested in. And because people in Africa are really into their African culture, they are bringing culture into religion so that they can hook people with that idea of communication with ancestors and so forth. But bear in mind, these practices that we are getting involved in with ubungoma and whatnot and stuff, there was someone who had to give themselves for the practice to manifest itself. And I want to show that. So I'm prayerfully dealing with this particular series that I'm talking about. And this is why we see Sangoma doing this type of things. But I hope that I will get one episode of this out today and to see uniformity as they are doing things in like ordering themselves into this direction, coming before people and appearing the way that they are doing right now. And I thought that was quite interesting for us to talk about, but also for us to further that series that I'm talking about as well. Show the Daily Christian Commentary videos. Don't forget to check out that number that I stated. We have a new sponsor, and the sponsor is our Bible people over there, the people that I was buying Bibles from and so forth. Yeah, they're going to be sponsoring our episodes. You might not find the Bibles that we displayed as winning items some time ago cheap. So we partner together so that we can get these Bibles over to you guys at thinking. So do check them out for specials that they would have. They would post different specials, of course. So follow them on WhatsApp, and when those particular episodes come out, you'll be able to see them there. Zeriki, I thought this was an interesting one.